So thanks for joining me on this video for Armour World. Here we're going to be checking out the OT-90. Now, when I was at the War and Peace show in Kent in 2011, the owner of this vehicle, who's called Neil, thanks very much for that by the way Neil, was kind enough to let me film his vehicle and also get a ride on it, which you'll see towards the end of the video. Now, the OT-90 was built in Czechoslovakia. Roughly about 5,000 of those were built. Several variations were created. This was basically an armoured personnel carrier, or an APC, as the acronym goes. Now these are very similar to the Russian-built BMP-1. The only main difference being the turret is different with the different armament. The Russian BMP-1 had a 73mm gun. The OT-90's configuration called for a 14.5mm gun and a coaxial 7.62 machine gun. The reason this was done was because the BMP-1 was technically classified as a light tank because of being able to engage enemy armour with such a cannon. The rest of the design is the same. The OT-90 basically carried about 8 or 9 troops in the back. The major thing you'll see as the video progresses here is an incredibly low profile and some extreme agility as well. This vehicle was very fast, could get up to maybe 35-40 miles an hour across country, has very good suspension, a good engine, and because of that low profile it's easy to hide. So it can sit into hull down position very well. You'll see through the video as he drives behind hills just how quickly and how easy that tank would, or that vehicle would be able to hide. Looking for my production values here just quickly. Yep, just around 5,000 to 7,000 of these were built between 1972 and 1988 by the plant in Dubina, and these vehicles were all used, were all given to the USSR at the time, and the Dubina plant basically consisted of, or ended up producing 70% of the total production of this vehicle, the OT-90/BMP-1. Features that are interesting about this vehicle: this was a Cold War vehicle. This was during this potential Cold War that was going to go hot. The whole idea behind the OT-90/the BMP was this was a completely enclosed personnel carrier, which allowed the infantry to be shielded essentially from artillery rounds, from small arms fire, all that sort of stuff, so all the shrapnel and everything that was previously a problem in World War II era design APCs, which usually took the form in half-tracks, where most of the time the half-tracks were open-topped, maybe with a canvas cover over the top, but not really sufficiently armoured or equipped to deal with shrapnel and small arms fire. This was one of the first fully enclosed APCs ever used, and the Soviets really did push the ball out with this one. This design basically has echoes throughout history now, up to the current APCs that we're using, such as the Bradley with the Americans, the Warrior with the British. A very successful design, but not without its flaws. One of the main flaws with this, even though it's a diesel-powered engine in this machine, the fuel tanks are situated under the floor of the troop compartment, so the troops are actually sitting on the primary fuel tank, and the back doors act as an emergency backup fuel tank. So when you see the doors, there's 2 large bulges on the back. Those are backup diesel supplies. So if that's hit, you have potential of extreme fire, which could be very bad for the crew, obviously. The other drawback was that the crew compartment was, because the vehicle has such a low profile, the crew compartment is very cramped. So disembarking effectively and quickly from the back of this vehicle was not particularly well done. Modern APCs you'll find either have a single large back door, or in the case of the Bradley, has a single ramp that falls down out the back, allowing the troops to disembark very quickly. Whereas this one has 2 separate doors with a pillar down the middle of that separating the 2 areas of the troop compartment. This made it very difficult to get out in a hurry, and in most cases you had to get out in a hurry because you were either being shot at or you were being told to go and attack something. The vehicle itself, having experienced the ride, you'll probably see in a minute, has a very smooth ride comparatively to the ground that it was driving on. As I said, it's very fast, very agile. You'll see with the sort of incredibly shaky camera work that I managed to do, that the vehicle can go pretty much anywhere and pretty much do anything. The vehicle is also amphibious. You'll have seen hopefully one of the video clips with a front duckboard or splashboard popping up via a pneumatic ram. That's just to help it when it's fording or swimming across rivers, because this vehicle can actually float. That was one of the major developments that was required for all sort of Cold War Warsaw Pact vehicles, that if it was carrying troops or carrying supplies, it needed to be able to work without the use of bridges. So what would happen is that these vehicles would move forward, the infantry would secure a location, a tank would come along, there was a bridge layer, would set the bridge down and allow your heavy armour to cross, while these OT-90s and BMPs have already crossed the river and are setting up supportive fire or supportive areas on the other side to allow the tanks to cross safely. A very interesting vehicle, quite not exactly a common vehicle, because in private hands it's very hard to maintain, but if you find one that's running really well, then you should probably never need to replace anything on it. That's pretty much all I've got to say on that. Hopefully you're enjoying watching the video, and I'm now going to leave you with my personal experience of riding in the OT-90. Thanks very much for watching, and take care.